I just love the format. I love the fact of being part of the team. I love going head to head with somebody. You know, I felt that we could go out there and do a good job. That didn't happen. It was a real shame.
I mean, I haven't given it that much thought. Like, I legitimately don't get it. I'm tired of the conversations. I'm tired of all this stuff. We're here to play, and you're talking about some event that happened last week. You can't drive a car looking in the rearview mirror, can you?
They got their profession. I got my profession. People around the world, they wanted me to win. People wanted Nick to win too. But at the end of the day, from that moment onward, my life changed. But that's what he didn't want them to get into my head.
Nick Faldo just named 7 big names who should stay home from golf. And honestly, the way he says it is basically, he can't do anything about it, but his voice sure carries weight. The Ryder Cup means everything to Faldo. It is where standards matter. It is where the pressure is real. It is where loyalty counts. It is the one event that cannot be bought or manufactured. It has to be earned through sweat and sacrifice and years of proving yourself worthy of wearing your country's colors. But here's the thing, calling people out of bounds forever, banishing them from the game they helped build, that feels harsh. That feels like using the sport's traditions as a weapon. Still, his arguments are sharp. His reasoning has teeth. And whether you agree or disagree, Faldo is reshaping how we even think about what it means to be a legend in modern golf. If you are enjoying this story, hit the hype feature and give this video some hype. It helps more golf fans find it. Now, let's talk about who is on this list and why Faldo thinks they need to disappear. Number 1, Brooks Koepka is Faldo's ultimate case study for why LIV golfers cannot compete at the Ryder Cup. Koepka is a 5-time major champion. He is legit, but Faldo has no mercy. He says Koepka took a boatload of cash. He took guaranteed money. He took mandatory personal appearances, and once you do that, your game gets soft. Faldo believes in something he calls the fear of failure. It is the terror of the cut line. It is zero income if you play poorly. That pressure, Faldo says, is what keeps golfers sharp. When you play on a fail-free tour, when you cannot actually fail because you get paid whether you finish last or first, it makes you go soft. That is Faldo's exact phrase. He thinks Koepka dulled his competitive edge the moment he signed that LIV deal. Form in exhibitions does not translate to Ryder Cup Sunday. Koepka and Faldo also have personal tension. Koepka dismissed Faldo's commentary before. He told him to shut up and listen. Faldo has not forgotten that. By telling Koepka to stay home, Faldo is defending the 72-hole stroke play format as the only true test. He is saying you cannot sharpen your game in exhibitions. You lose your edge. You lose your hunger. But here's the pushback. Koepka won 5 majors. He has proven himself as one of the best golfers alive. Can one tour really erase that? Can money really turn a champion soft? Maybe form in exhibitions matters less than Faldo thinks. Maybe Koepka's talent transcends the format he plays in. Number 2. Keegan Bradley is different. Bradley is American. He is not a ELEV defector. His sin was trying to be both player and captain at the same time. Faldo told Bradley directly, "Do not do this." He called it an impossible job. Faldo drew on his own experience. Modern captains do everything. Media appearances, pairings, clothes, course setup. The captain is the only person who can actually talk to the players. Even the assistants cannot do it. If Bradley is playing his own match, the team is leaderless in that session. No one can give real-time advice. No one can shift strategy. It breaks the whole thing. Faldo told Bradley to his face, "If it was me, I would either play first and give up the captaincy, or stay as captain and do not play. Pick one. Do not try to do both." Faldo called it a distraction. And this one hits different because Faldo was actually right. After the 2025 Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black, where Europe won, post-game analysis said the US team got critical elements wrong. Bradley's dual role seemed to be part of the problem. Faldo's warning looked prescient. He understood the unique pressures better than anyone, but even when Faldo is correct, his delivery is still cutthroat. He does not say, "Try to balance it." He says you cannot do it, period. There is something cold about that certainty, something final and unforgiving about the way he makes his points. Number 3, Greg Norman is the ideological enemy. If the European players are wayward sons, Norman is the villain. He is the CEO of LEV Golf. He is Faldo's historic rival. This goes back decades. Faldo and Norman have beef that started on the golf course. The 1996 Masters looms over everything. Faldo overcame a 6-shot deficit to beat Norman in one of the greatest comebacks ever. In 2023, Faldo wore a Jaws movie t-shirt as a joke about needing a bigger boat for his final shark hunt. That is psychological warfare. That is Faldo reminding the world that he dominated Norman under pressure. Now Faldo sees Norman trying to buy the sport instead of beat it on the course. He says Norman has wrecked his own legacy. He acknowledges that Norman was great, he was charismatic, he was exciting. But now all that goodwill is gone. Faldo tells Norman to exit stage left, to stop antagonizing the professional game. Norman says he is trying to grow the game. Faldo calls that a lie. He says LIV is not actually growing golf. It is just expanding into countries that have played golf for over 100 years. Australia, Spain, that is not growth. That is a closed-shop exhibition league pretending to be something bigger. Faldo believes Norman's real motivation is revenge. He lost to Faldo on the course, so now he wants to blow up the whole system. But here's the thing, at what point does this become just business criticism versus personal vendetta? Faldo and Norman's history is real, but using it to judge Norman's current role feels personal. It feels like settling old scores under the guise of protecting the sport. Number 4. Henrik Stenson is unique because he held a position of power. He was the sitting captain of the European Ryder Cup team when he defected to LIV Golf. That is not just a player choosing money. That is a leader breaking his contract. Faldo supported stripping Stenson of his captaincy immediately. His logic is sound. The captain signs a contract. Players are independent contractors. The captain is an officer of the organization. Stenson gave his word in March 2022 that he would not join a rival tour, then months later, he reversed course. You cannot have a Ryder Cup captain working for a rival tour that is actively suing the tour he is representing. It makes the whole thing untenable. Faldo is firm on this one. But he offers something rare, a moment of empathy. He noted Stenson's personal circumstances. He speculated that maybe Stenson was in dire financial trouble. Maybe he had losses from old schemes. Maybe, like Phil Mickelson, he felt like he needed a lot of money right away. That does not soften the verdict, though. Faldo says you have to move on. Luke Donald took over. Stenson was removed. For him, stay home meant a literal stripping of rank, a removal from the team he was supposed to lead. Understanding the motive does not excuse the action. That is Faldo's stance. But it shows that even Faldo knows money desperation can make people do things they never thought they would do. That awareness makes his verdict somehow both harsher and more human. Number 5. Lee Westwood is the third pillar of the Exile Club, a former world number 1, a legend. He went to LIV and Faldo sees it as a cynical cash-out. Westwood knew he could not compete anymore with rising young stars on the PGA Tour, so he took a huge chunk of money up front. The easy option, the safe play. Faldo urges him to disappear, to go do another job, to stop talking about the Ryder Cup, like he still belongs in the conversation. No one is going to talk about you. Just go. Get on with it. The harshness is intentional. But Faldo also sees something strategic here. The European team held on to Westwood, Garcia, and Poulter too long. Their core was aging, depth was lacking. By forcing them to stay home, the European system was actually forced to accelerate development of the next generation, a new breed of 25-year-olds. Victor Hovland, Ludwig Aberg, players who did not grow up expecting to ride Westwood's coattails. Faldo predicted this would happen, and it did. Europe won in 2025. The generational cleansing worked, but it is still brutal to frame it that way. Westwood built the European team. He bled for the Ryder Cup. Now he is being told he is in the way, that his experience does not matter, that he should vanish. Maybe some players deserve a better exit. Maybe legends deserve to choose how their stories end. Number 6. Ian Poulter is known as the postman because he always delivers a point. His entire career identity is wrapped in the Ryder Cup. Without it, his resume lacks the major championship weight of guys like Faldo. Poulter went to LIV and Faldo delivered a devastating line. The postman delivered himself to a rival company. That comment dismantled Poulter's whole hero status in one sentence. If the postman is not the emotional heartbeat of Team Europe, he is just an aging golfer on a semi-retirement tour. That is how Faldo frames it. But Faldo goes deeper. He says Poulter played the maths game. Poulter and his peers did the calculation. Take the huge upfront money. Assume you can legally maneuver back into the Ryder Cup. They thought I still win. They believed they could have both the rebel cash and the establishment glory. For Faldo, that miscalculation has to have a cost. Permanent isolation. That is the punishment. That is the statement. Actions have irreversible consequences. Faldo thinks Europe's future depends on shedding reliance on Poulter's past heroics. The postman's deliveries do not matter anymore. New players will define the team. But Poulter's entire identity was built on being essential. Now he is told he is expendable. Now his legacy is negotiable. There's something cold about that too. There is something that cuts deeper than just golf. Number 7. Sergio Garcia is the hardest case. He is the all-time leading point scorer in Ryder Cup history. That is a statistic that should guarantee a lifetime appointment as a vice captain, captain, and ambassador. But Faldo has no softness about Garcia. He calls for total exile. Stay home. Do not come back. Do not have a voice in the team room. The beef runs deep. When Garcia went to LIV, he did not just leave the tour. He engaged in litigation. He got involved in public disputes with the administration that runs the Ryder Cup. Faldo sees a bridge burned beyond repair. Garcia joined a rival entity. He became a distraction, a toxic presence. The Ryder Cup team room relies on cohesion. If Garcia is there representing a competing tour, it undermines everything. Faldo, who was actually criticized for being an aloof captain back in 2008, now champions the sanctity of the team environment. The irony is thick, but there is also history. After the 2008 defeat at Valhalla, Faldo called Garcia's attitude useless. That sparked a decade-long Cold War. They had moments of detente, but Garcia's move to LIV gave Faldo the moral high ground to permanently write him off. By telling Garcia to stay home, Faldo is arguing that even the all-time leading point scorer's statistical contributions are outweighed by institutional infidelity. That is the message. Numbers do not matter if your loyalty is broken. Your picture won't still be on the wall. That is Faldo's exact phrase. You work for a company for 20 years. You build your legacy there. You become the face of it. Then you leave for a rival. You damage that company. You sue them. You become an enemy. How do you expect your picture to stay on the wall? How do you expect to ever come back? For Faldo, you do not. You stay home. You accept exile. You live with the consequences. You accept that some bridges once burned cannot be rebuilt. Now, here is what you have to understand about all of this. Faldo is not just making arguments about golf. He is rewriting what legend even means. He is saying institutional loyalty is a prerequisite for historical greatness. The Hall of Fame prospects for the LIV generation may be permanently damaged if Faldo's view takes root. He is not just the commentator. He is the guardian at the gate. He is deciding who gets remembered and who gets forgotten. He is using the Ryder Cup as a weapon to enforce obedience to the old order. His list shapes narratives. It pressures leadership. It acts like soft power, influencing how people think about these players before they even make decisions. In a way, Faldo is doing what Greg Norman is accused of doing, trying to control the sport from a position of influence rather than just participating in it. He has become the enforcer of a doctrine that values exclusion over inclusion. The problem is that the old order is changing whether Faldo likes it or not. The tour itself is fracturing. The money is too big. The business is too complicated. You cannot just tell people to go away and expect them to vanish. The sport is not run by absolute rulers anymore. It is run by lawyers and board members and negotiations. Faldo's philosophy is built on a time when there was one path, one tour, one way to be great. That time is gone. Some of his criticisms are fair. Fear of failure matters. Standards matter. Pressure matters. The Ryder Cup is special and it should be protected. Loyalty is valuable, but exile is not the only answer. Banishment is not the only tool. There are conversations to have. There are compromises to find. There are ways to honor the past without erasing the present. Faldo sees the sport as needing a hard reset. Maybe he is right. Maybe the young Europeans who rose up proved that the generational change was necessary. Maybe Europe needed to stop holding on to aging legends and start building something new. But the way it happened, the way Faldo framed it, with a list of permanent exiles and a doctrine of institutional loyalty, that feels like running the sport by grudge. And grudges do not make good policy. Standards do. Growth does. Including people while pushing them to be better does. The Ryder Cup survived because it evolved, not because it froze. It adapted to change while keeping its soul intact. That is the real lesson here. Not that people need to be banished, but that traditions need to breathe. They need to find ways to incorporate new realities while honoring old values. Faldo's list might have been necessary medicine for the European team, but medicine is not the same as governance. Faldo's approach works as a motivational tool for a moment. It works as a rallying cry for change. But as a permanent doctrine for running the sport, that is where it breaks down. Players are not employees to be purged. Careers are not just chapters in an institution's story. They matter as individual human narratives too. They matter because these are real people with real lives, not just characters in Faldo's grand narrative about standards and discipline. So Faldo's list is interesting. His arguments have merit, his passion is real, his predictions about the young Europeans came true, and that validates part of his thinking. But his solution is too harsh. The sport is bigger than any one voice. The players are bigger than any one verdict. And the future will be written by people who came after Faldo, not by people trying to replicate him. The game needs voices like Faldo's to push back against complacency, but it also needs voices that say there is room for redemption, for second chances, for paths back from exile. Like this video if you think Faldo makes strong points, even if you disagree with his exile doctrine. Subscribe for more golf stories that dive deeper than the surface. Comment below and tell me which player on Faldo's list you think deserves a second chance. Or maybe you think Faldo got it all right, and they really should stay home.